Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Electrical Theology, Esoteric Life Coaching. I am your host, Charles, and in this episode, we're going to continue on with our Sermon 25, how to be an effective communicator and how to be an effective listener. And we've been talking about deep listening, we talked about superficial listening and a few in between. But the main thing if you want great relationships, deep, open, trusted relationships, and it's about being open yourself. It's about being able to communicate what's on your heart and what's on your mind and not have it filtered out through the ego. All right? In order to be a good, effective communicator, we have to be ready to invest or deeply invest ourselves into that relationship. We've been talking about the realms. For right now, we're in the chemical realm and we're dealing with the mental, physical stages. And as well, we're over here in the reflective. So communication is helping us reflect. Once we learn the communication style, then we have the tools of the communication tools in which to communicate with ourselves. And as we practice and work on that and look at our truths, look at our authenticity, then we're able then to help others and by reframing and rephrasing what they're saying to us, right? Because if they're not sure what they're saying, then we can help them by deep listening, helping them to reframe or have them themselves reframe again back to you from their original words. That makes sense? So we left off yesterday, just to give a little recap, we left off yesterday about a person doesn't have a life strategy. This is why, the life strategy is based then on the communication or the openness and taking responsibility for those thoughts, actions, and emotions. Or they have no understanding of their awareness or self-awareness or their self-esteem, their self-worth, any of these self-images. These are all about the self. And if they don't know how to communicate with their self, then they don't understand their self-worth or esteem or any of that good stuff. And they don't know the difference between knowing who they are and their soul's core values. The core is heart, and then so they don't have any heart values. They don't, meaning that they're not valuing themselves because they're not opening their heart because it's defended. Right? It's in the ego land. And why is it we don't want to know our truths? We talked about that yesterday about it being painful. Right? But we got to face that pain because it's your perception that it's pain. We can, even if you perceive it to be pain, then we can still look at that and negotiate and navigate that with a different frequency. And all this is going to help us increase our value or our amplitude, which then allows our frequency as a human being to reach out to the galactic world, the universal frequencies, the ships that are out there, and more respective and relevant is our relationships here on Earth with our family members, our lovers, our loved ones, right? With our co-workers. So we talked about this yesterday. And so how are you? That was one of our first things we went over in the secret grid. And it's based on the identification of emotional labels, titles, and occupations people have placed upon themselves or have allowed others to place upon them, like depressive or PTSD or anger or any of these other terms they want to put on to these people. Now, I'm not saying that these things don't exist. I'm saying if you have the will, the wisdom, and the action in order to change your perspective by taking responsibility for your thoughts, actions, and emotions, and as Freud and a bunch of the other ones said, that you're able then to negotiate yourself, right, from delusion to illusion to error, and then normalcy, whatever that normal is for you. Again, we're just reviewing, and I'm not going to go back into that. So today we're going to talk about the rapport. We touched on it yesterday, just briefly about the rapport. And again, rap and pour. Rap means to talk, to verse, to sing, whatever this is. It's rap. It's just communication. And again, we're breaking this down. So in order to create a rapport with someone, I need to rap their port, or what is their portal frequency. You see what I'm saying? What's their key? How do I get in touch with them? How do I relate to them, to their ship, to their frequency, to their needs or wants, to desires, right? And so rapport is just about establishing a connection. Again, keeping that in mind now that the words we're beginning to speak are ionic, meaning that rapport is I'm wrapping with their port, right? I'm establishing a connection, or I'm connecting with their ions, right, of trust. And we'll play with that word here in a minute, with our clients and all the other people, bosses, families, etc., for the purpose of confiding and opening up undefended. Again, we want deep relationships. If you're having superficial relationships, if you're jumping from one person to another person, great, if that works for you. But if you wonder why that you have difficulty having and establishing a relationship with one person or with many people, whatever this is for you, then there's a superficiality going on. And if you want a deeper connection and deeper relationships, then you're going to have to go deeper within yourself. If you can go deeper within yourself and work through all this stuff and unfold those moments of held perceptions based off of what other people have told you or what you've told yourself, your value. And so if you're devaluing yourself or evaluating or reevaluating yourself, this is all great. This is helping you unfold that esoteric internal self. Right? And this is what this is about, to where we then can connect and relate to other people via connecting and relating to ourselves. So we're establishing a connecting with the ions for the purpose of them confiding. Confiding is another word for trust or faith or all these things. Fide just means life. So I'm with the life, with their energy, with their frequency. And I'm establishing a wrapping port with their port. Right? So that word trust, I use it differently. For me, trust or truth, this meaning for me is congruency. And what is congruency? It's reliability, integrity, honesty, genuineness, transparency, authentic, compassionate, empathetic. Right? If a person's that way, they are quote unquote for me trustworthy. Right? Their worth is trust, because my self-worth is trust. I can't really trust in anyone else because I don't know anyone else. What I can do, though, is look at their congruency, feel their congruency. Do they have integrity? Are they honest? What's that word honest mean, right? If they say something, they mean it and they follow through with it. There's not a difference. They say what's in their heart, right? There's no filter, if you will. And sometimes that no filter, it's harsh on some people, but that's who I'm going to be. That's who I want to be around, right? As long as people aren't projecting their stuff on me, but if I'm being a certain way and they call me on it, then I'm going to check in really fast and go, wait, you know what? That is me. I own that. Right? So then I become the owner of that ship or that frequency. So then I can change or alter the frequency immediately, right? We talked about the immediacy early on. Now, clients will not open up if congruency is not felt or established. Now, again, clients are just all your friends, families, all this type of stuff as well. Clients will not open up and if congruency is not felt or established. So if you're just being superficial and just nodding your head and going, then that person is probably not going to open up. Because once you get a little deeper, and then when they're opening their heart, and all of a sudden your phone rings and you answer it or something, then you've broken that trust, right, or that congruency. Again, these slides that I'm showing you is part of a bigger program that I've taught over the years to institutions and a lot of other people and groups. But I'm bringing it now, since I've taught it for so long, I'm bringing it online for free, where people can just understand what I've been teaching, and people have paid good money for over the decades, is that now I can bring this stuff so I'm here to serve it to the world freely. Now later on, I'm going to have specific classes or programs that I have, and I will sell those. But for right now, we're not there. I'm giving this stuff out to lay the foundation, so when I do bring out the other programs, that you already have the foundation. We don't have to start from scratch. Make sense? Right? This program that I teach, that's program. Again, Graham is God. We're up in the God in the hierarchy. This program is not for, in essence, whiners or excuse makers or justifiers or egoic. Right? We're all egoic. I'm not saying that. I'm saying those who understand their ego and use it purposefully and willingly, and with awareness and understanding and all that good stuff. But it's people who don't know they're using their ego or don't think they're egoic that this program's not going to be for you. That's why you need the foundations. But as we get into the higher frequencies and you bring your ego along, you're basically going to get burned. And that means electrically your body can experience resistances. We'll just put it simply like that. Right? But for right now, we just want to understand what we're meaning by rapport and making a connection with another person is our frequencies. There's a covalent bonding going on with the frequencies of my cells and your cells. That we're then able to then match those. And if they're a good match, they're going to go ahead and cohabitate for a point in space and time so that we can relate back and forth or have a great relationship, my ship with their ship. So that's for me is truth, and congruency is truth. So if you are congruent and consistent, I don't expect you to be perfect, none of us are, and we'll get into that here in a minute. That none of us are perfect. Now let's look at that relationship a little bit more. So we know means a gain, right? To gain something, not to lose. And the relate part of that is just to get along. It's just an easy definition is that my frequency vibes with your frequency, right? Pretty simple. You had it right in the 70s, right? Your vibe and all that good stuff. Good vibrations, right? Beach Boys. And so we relate with the ions or energy. And that energy is their unique frequency. Again, when I drop my guard and I allow my energy to be felt, am I going to be welcomed by the same opening and courtesy, if you will, or open heart, undefended? Then we're going to continue that relationship as long as it's congruent. The moment it's not congruent, I shut it down and I go on. Or I can reframe back to that person or state what is with that immediacy and say, hey, this is what I'm picking up. Is this on me? Is this me or is this you? You know? Or I'll call someone on their stuff, right? Because what they say to me, if it's there within me, it's going to trigger me. But if it's not, then I feel that. And then if it's their stuff, then I'm going to reframe it or rephrase it back at them or basically reflect it back on them by using similar tone. And we'll get into the body language and tonality here in a minute. But basically, relationship, other ships, ape suits, flesh bags, as I like to call them, via the impressions and pressure that we talked about before. Unique and specific frequencies. So again, we've already talked about this, so it's just relating to their frequency and then matching their frequency on their key and then having congruency. And so how do we relate to ourselves determines how we relate, our relationships will be. So how you relate with yourself, how you're congruent with yourself and consistent with yourself is exactly how it will be with other people. Because you can't be to other people other than what you are. Make sense? All right, so this is a Moravian model, and Albert Moravian, he was a engineer by trade in he was born I think in 1939, but he was an engineer. Long story short, he got into communication and would observe people, and this is sort of his model that when it comes to communication, that words are only really effective 7% of the time. And this again goes with congruency or trust or opening up or a rapport with someone. And so your words, basically, you ever hear the saying, less talk, more action? Well, that's what that is that, so only your words is what's establishing the rapport with someone else, right? It's the frequency behind the words, which is the tonality. And so the tonality is 38% of what people open up to or create a rapport with, right? That's how you tone something, right? If I just have basic words, I'm like, yeah, I like you a lot. I like you. But then if my tonality is like, yeah, I like you. What about it, right? The tone, right? We pick up on that tone because the tone's an amplified frequency from the word. Make sense? And then the physiology basically is body language, right? I love it when people say, when I ask them, do you agree with that or not? Not that I'm really looking for them to agree or not. I just want to see if they're being present, if we have congruency and openness, and are we establishing a rapport. Right? This rapport is very important when we do actually get into mediumship, when we actually start working with and practicing mediumship, right? Opening up to other people's frequencies. This is just the lessons right now, right? We're less on, so eventually we're going to be a moron, right? We'll be more on, not less on. A lesson, just fun words, right? And so our body language basically is how a person, their micro expressions, how they move their body, right? My favorite one is when I ask them something and to affirm it or agree or whatever this may be, and they're like, oh yeah, I certainly do. I certainly agree with you. Yeah, that's awesome, right? But their head's going back and forth like a no answer, right? But their words and their tonality is saying yes. So this physiology is I'm looking at. If they say, oh yeah, I'm confident, but their shoulders are down, they're hunched over, right? They won't look you in the eyes, right? But they're saying they're confident. But again, words, I'm not picking up on the words. What I'm picking up is the frequency. I'm hearing with my eyes and seeing with my ears. Right? I'm taking everything in, and this is sort of a breakdown. I just thought it was an interesting chart that someone had that was tonality is 38 and physiology is 55% of how we communicate. You ever, and this is a great practice, I heard this from someone I can't remember, credit to whoever that is that watch the TV, turn your sound off and see if you can follow the conversation or the energy of that conversation without the words. Turn the volume down and see if you can just pick up, are they angry? And how will you know? Because of the physiology. Are they happy? Physiology, facial expressions, right? But there's no words there. So watch a silent movie, the whole movie from start to finish, and see if you can get the gist of that movie, and then go back and watch that movie with the sound and see how close you were. All right? So again, this reveals congruency for me, and having a winning relationship, or winning someone else's trust, as it said, is just genuinity and confidence, right? And confidence is with life. So life is energy. So I'm with their energy, and I'm deeply melded with their energy, and this is what's creating a rapport. Okay? Making sense? All right. Tomorrow we'll start with this: the 4 levels of effective communication. Right. But for now, that's going to do it. This week, if you have any comments, please put them below, and I'll read them. And definitely, especially, get those thumbs working and like. Right. The algorithm loves that. AI loves when you tickle that like button. They just love to boost me up in the ratings so we can get this channel out to everyone, guys. All right. That is my mission. I'm here as a missionary, right, to help others find or create or fill their own missing ions, right? Not have others fill it for them, but for them to create their own experiences. All right. All right, guys. Love each and every one of you. Look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.